Hello everyone, today we are going to talk about upgrading the controller on the Fiido L2. The original controller is factory locked. You can not use any kind of tricks such as pushing the brake and turning it on or keeping the throttle pressed and starting it on. Nope, it will not work on this model because that one is hardware locked. There is no delimitation wire or stuff like that, so you need to change the controller. That's the new controller. There are options now you can choose from, such as this nice throttle display. I've chosen push accelerator. You can also get a twist accelerator if you want to and stuff like that, but I like this type. And this has a lot of features, including things such as exact voltage showing of the battery. Now it's at 48 volts, so it's half charge, and that kind of corresponds with the graphic here. You have an odometer, trip meter, and that's really nice. And now you also have speed displayed on the screen. You have speed limitations such as first gear, which is limited to around 15 kilometers per hour, and second gear, which is already 30, and now 3 unlimited. And as you can see, you can get a lot of speed now out of this bike. And now I'm going to show you some steps that are needed to make this upgrade. So first you need to take the rear seat off, and you can see how to do that in my other video where I am showing you how to remove the alarm from this bike. You need to remove the saddle with the locking screw that holds it in place. Then you can also remove the tray that holds the original controller, and you have access to the wires. Because controller versions vary and even the specifications from the website that you buy them are not 100% correct or complete, I've did a quick setup here. I've just removed the motor wires from the old controller. That means three thick wires that go to the motor, and there are also these 6 wires here which are the hall sensors, and also removed the plus and the minus from the original controller. Then I've connected only those wires to the new controller and the throttle. And then you are going to need to play with the auto learning function of the controller, because this is a Hall motor and it's big advantage to use Hall in with a controller with Hall sensors. There are plenty to talk about that and why. But the problem is, even though the wires here match the same colors and the plug surprisingly fits, it's the same plug and the wires, the colors all match, the motor will not run great. It will produce a lot of vibrations and shaking, or will spin reversed. And because this is a geared motor, when you spin it reversed, it will actually not spin because it has a clutch inside. So the electric motor will spin reversed and the clutch is disengaged and it will not spin at all. So you need to play with this learning function, and this enables you to change the rotation of the motor, and it will also help the controller to learn the about 60 possible combinations that you can make with the Hall sensor wires. So this has an auto learning function. It will run the motor and read the Hall sensors, and then it will auto program the Hall sensor position, and then will sync them and work, which is rather smart and amazing. The next step is to identify all the wires from the old controller, such as lights, horn, brake sensors, and so on. And not all of those will work on the new controller. For example, the new controller seems of not having any kind of control for the lights, but on the throttle here you have an option actually to turn on the light like that, but I haven't found a capable output of turning on or off when you use that. But you have other functions such as this one, and that's the help function, and this will make the bike go around 6 or 7 kilometers per hour. Well, actually slower under load. And this is when you walk by the bike if the bike is heavy, so, or you go uphill next to the bike. It has a lot of stuff, and it has around 12 or 14 programmable parameters, which I still need to go through, and I have only made some basic setup until now, such as the correct wheel diameter, the number of magnets and stuff like that, so that the speed here is correctly reported. Alright, so the original controller has been taken out, and I've labeled all the original wires on the bike and also on the controller. I have took out all the wiring and checked each wire where it goes, so that I know how to connect the old wires such as the brake sensors to the new controller. And now what I need to do is to adapt the plugs for the motor and power, because the old controller was using a connection that look like this, and the new one has this type of connectors. There are screw connectors, and you need some adapters for it, but they are very bulky and I don't fancy them. You screw this on a metal plate that has another screw here, and it's supposed that on the motor side here you have the same terminals, and you need to crimp them, but it's going to be huge. Imagine three of those with another three with screws in them, and the same happens for the battery, because the new controller also takes power on the same connector, and I'm going to replace all of them with bullet connectors, and these are actually gold plated and should last for big currents and should be better, and you can always take them off and reconnect them as you wish to. So now all the wires are prepared on the controller, and now I have to do the same on the bike for the motor and for the battery power supply. And now the first battery terminal is done, and I can now easily connect the new controller, and I can also easily disconnect it, and the same will happen to the positive side. So the motor wires are also down and they are okay, and now we need to take the old accelerator off and the old panel. So the old throttle is there, uninstalled, installed the new one, and put the wires in a temporary position just to assess their length again and route them back. And now I need to install that basket that holds the controller, and hopefully the new one, which is much more larger, will still fit inside. As the controller is now fitted, this is to the limit here. It does have some space on the sides, but I still need to figure out some other connectors, such as reworking the brake sensors, as the connectors do not fit. Also, I want to make the rear lamp and the horn and the front lamp, the original ones, to work. so I still need to change some wires, do some measurements to figure them out, but it looks that I may be able to get all of that here inside without any kind of other modifications. On the new controller you also have to change the wiring for the assisted pedaling system, as the sensor has reversed plus and minus. You can check that on the old controller. If you have labeled it, it has plus on this side and minus on the middle, and the new controller has minus on the side and plus on the middle, so you need to change that, and also take into account that this connector will only fit into one position. So actually, if we want to fit them with the original cable, it has a notch here and here, and then the plus is on this side, where here it's my signals side, and I have minus, plus and signal, while on the old controller I have signal, minus and plus. So I need to change the order of the wires, and that it's easy to be done. You have these clips here, you press them with a small screwdriver, and then you can extract the pins and then insert them into the correct position. And now we need to rewire the brakes. The new controller has this type of plug, while the bike sensors have exactly the same plug, but they are of the same type, so they will not fit. And I need to replace one of the plugs, but actually I'm going to replace all the plugs. I'm going to use some X330 connectors that I had around here, and they are really small but really good in quality, and I'm going to use those for the brake system. I could have just soldered the wires, but if I plan to take this off for maintenance or something like that, it will be harder if the wires are soldered, so putting connectors back on, it's better. And now the new plugs are installed, and I can connect the brake sensors. And now quick check for the brake. So if I turn on the controller, if I press the brake, yes, I have that symbol that's showing up there. That means that the brake is actioning. So if I press the other one, yes, the other one also works. And that has several reasons. For example, if I power on the motor and I keep the throttle pressed, if I touch the brake, it will inhibit the motor to work. If I release the brake, the motor will run again, so the motor will never run while the brake is pressed. And the other reason is that if you engage cruise control, which this controller has, which is engaged by holding this button pressed while it's running, so now you don't need to hold the throttle, it's on cruise control. If you touch the brake, it will turn off the cruise control, which is a very good safety feature. Alright, so after the brakes we need to sort out the lights, because that's the last thing remaining: the rear light, the front light and the horn. And we need, to be safe, a switchable power supply, and I found out this plug, which is not too well documented in the manual of the controller, but the orange wire here and the green wire, when the controller is turned off, it's 0, but if I power it on, just look at that. So I turn on the controller from the LCD screen, and that it's now turned on. So it's a switchable power supply that turns on or off, so I can connect hopefully to these wires and connect the wire and the wire for the light and the horn. And now there's one more thing to do. It's a thing that I don't like too much, but I'm going to do it anyway. So the original controller has this combination of split wires. This splits current for the rear light, for the front light, and the front light horn and light switch. So I'm going to cut the orange wire and the black wire, and those two wires with the 3 plugs will connect to my orange wire and green wire to the new controller, and when I'm going to switch the new controller on, it will supply power to all those three plugs, and that will mean that the switch from the handlebar to turn on the lights will turn both lights on, and that the uh, horn will work. And I'm also going to do a kind of a piggyback with this connector, and this is the charger for the phone holder, and this also needs switchable power. So when you turn on the bike, it will supply 48 volts to that phone support, which has built-in voltage regulator that will output 5 volts and charge your phone. Alright, so I have made the connections, a bit hard to see. Now the controller is off, so I'm going to turn it on. Controller is on, and if I turn on the lights, I do have a rear light, but the front one doesn't work. Let's try the horn. Horn works, but there's a problem, and you can see that the rear light loses intensity. And look at the voltage meter, so now it's actually running only the rear lamp, and if I press the horn, voltage drops even lower, so that's why the front lamp doesn't work. So the controller is not outputting high current to run all those accessories, so I need to find another way to supply power to the accessories. So I'm not going to connect them as they are right now. So I found a second plug. It's this one with just two wires, red and black, and this is a permanent 48 volts, actually battery voltage. And if I connect all those wires to it, I can use directly the light button here, and the rear lamp will work with no problems, the front light will work with no problems, and also horn works, and there is no losing in power for the lamps, so that one it's not limited in current, so I can use that to power my lights and horn. The only problem is that you leave the lights on, they will work with the controller turned off, and if you forget them that way, they will run until they will deplete the battery. The controller works now normally, but you cannot control the lights from it, because this one, although has support for lighting here, you can turn on or off the lights, the drive controller here doesn't have any output for the lamps. So now it's done. All the wires and the plugs made their home here. There's no need to do any kind of other modifications. The new controller and all the plugs will fit there. And now I have working lights, working horn, everything works. There is one thing that doesn't work for now, but that's going to be presented in the second part of the video when I'm going to test drive this. For now, if I lean it to one side like that, I hope that I will get at least 40 kilometers per hour. That's to be seen. But I'm going to talk about the pros and the cons of this modification in that video. And until then, this is what was needed to be done uh, to make the Fiido faster and have no limitation. All the wires were put back in their place, uh, zip ties, and reused these spirals, so everything is now looking like stock, except this huge controller here that has replaced this tiny one, which was just a fraction of this one that I'm running on. So be sure to follow my next upload where I'm going to test drive this, and hopefully it will perform as best as it should perform, comparing with the amount of work that I have put into it. And that was it for now. Until then, see you and bye bye.